Hello, my lovely ladies. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. My name is Isabel. If this is your first time joining us, now I feel like every time I come on here, I'm always saying like how inconsistent I am and how I haven't really been able to like log in and make videos on this channel. Sorry, guys. I have like um, text going through. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to come on today and talk about this because this has been obviously something that I have been noticing, and some of you may have noticed it as well. Um, the reason why I'm making this video is because a couple of days ago, during the holiday break, I got the chance to see the Danish deception videos with the woman who was married to a scammer. And I saw a lot of reactions to it and a lot of people talking about a lot of things that I agree with, the red flags and all those kind of things. But there is something that I haven't really seen people touch upon. And I wanted to make a video talking about this because I think this is a bigger conversation than just, what everybody's speaking about, the red flags and all the things that, she missed with this guy. And I feel as though that if we take a step back and really see what happened to her, we notice that this happens to quite a lot of people. But the fact that it happened to her in the way that it did really does reflect the age and the season of her life that she was in. So, what am I talking about? I'm going to talk about it in this video. Okay. So, as I recall, this woman is or was, when she first met this guy, in her late 20s, right? She said that she's never been in a relationship. And this was the first guy that, really sparked her interest. And, basically, this was her first time actually falling in love. And I think that's the conversation. I think that's where we stop right there, because when you first fall in love, many of us fall in love, are in our first relationship when we're teenagers or early 20s, right? Like I remember my first relationship, I was 14 years old. I was very young. I was completely in love. I was thinking that this person is going to be my forever, and all of the stupid things that you think in your mind, all that you're willing to do for the person, all that you're willing to experience with the person, all of that happens in your first love, right? That's what happens. That's, you're infatuated by this love experience for the first time. It hits you and you're like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with this person. And that happens to everybody. That happens to every single person who falls in love for the first time. It just does, because you never felt this way before outside. I mean, you really don't really feel this way with family, because with family, you've already grown to love them. You've been around them, right? You just automatically love your mother. You automatically love your father, your siblings, your grandparents, the people who are close to you. You love them, right? But when you get into a relationship with someone else, you're now experiencing love for the first time. It's like, what the hell is this? Like it's like a drug that you just take, and then you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like I could still remember the first time where, I was in love and in a relationship. And I remember the first time we kissed, like I actually seen like fireworks, right? Like that's how deep it was. So, when you experience that, like most people do when they are in their teens or early 20s, and you do all of the stupid things that come with that, you don't listen to the red flags, you believe that all of this stuff and stuff like that is like perfect, and nobody is going to like stop your love from happening and all this stuff. Like you believe in the fairy tale. You're looking at the fairy tale and you're saying, oh my God, this is like the true and real thing. And then eventually things come crashing down and you guys break up, you go through the heartbreak, and then you move on with your life with the lessons that you learned, hopefully. When that happens, when you are a teenager and when you're in your early 20s, you're essentially safe, right? You didn't have much to lose. You didn't put much into the relationship, especially if you've never, you know, moved in with the person, had a child with the person. Usually at that age, you're still living at home with your parents, or you're still in school, you're going to go to college, like, or any of the, all of those things are happening. So you're pretty much in this relationship with zero risk. When you are first time falling in love and you are in your late 20s and your 30s and you've never been in a relationship and you get hit with love and you get hit with your first relationship and all of those feelings hit you, you actually are in a worse position because you have so much more to lose. By that time in your late 20s, you are thinking about moving in together, you're thinking about marriage, you're thinking about babies, you're thinking about all of these things. And you have no experience. You have no experience with love. So you're in it the same way a person who is in their late teens are is in a in a relationship. So you're feeling all of the same feelings as a teenage girl that you're feeling that in your late 20s or in your 30s. That's dangerous. And I think that we don't talk about that enough, right? Because you don't have the experience of relationships or heartbreak for you to really see the red flags or not invest too much on things that aren't really solid. So when you're in this, like the girl in the video, I'm sorry, I don't know her name, but some of you guys already know who I'm talking about. When you're in a similar situation like the girl who was in the video, you see that uh, she had way more to risk. She married the guy, she moved him in, she got him a green card, she introduced him to family, she thought she was going to have children with this guy. All of these things are happening because it's her first time being in love, right? This is her first time under the spell of love. If she had been in relationships prior to this, if she's already had the experience, it's less likely that she would be swept up by her emotions and her feelings and think that this is going to be everlasting, because you've had the experience of heartbreak, you've had the experience of relationships, failed relationships, red flag relationships, you know, all of that already happened. But when you are essentially at that age where you're ready to settle down and this is your first time experiencing it, you are going to make the grave mistake by thinking that it is real, and you're going to ignore all of the red flags, which we all did. Like we you know, we all did it, but it's like when you do it earlier with less risk, you are so much safer and so much better off. And so I always advocate, especially for ladies who are, you know, in their late teens, early 20s, like date, get in relationships, you know, see who you like, see what kind of relationship style you're interested in, you know, really get into the practice of being in a relationship, of speaking up for yourself, of, you know, seeing the red flags, getting that experience. So when you do find your person, you are actually sure that this is your person and you have enough experience from seeing, you know, all the red flags in guys that you're like, oh, okay, like I'm not going to choose that guy, I'm going to choose this guy. And people are so like they forget about that part. They forget that you need experience. Like relationships is not just something that you can just jump in and like, okay, like I know, like no, just like everything else, you need to experience it. You need to learn from it. You need to grow from it. And you need to build that experience. And a lot of the time we don't, and or we don't learn from the experience. And because there's a bunch of people who, you know, get in these relationships and have babies with every single person that they have a relationship with. And that's the same thing. Like you're not learning from the experience, like, okay, maybe I shouldn't, you know, try to start a family with this person. Maybe I shouldn't try to, you know, go further with this person if I'm seeing patterns that were the same as the last person that I was with. So I think it's important that, you know, we actually look at that, because I think that explains so much more. Because if she had been in a relationship prior to this, if she had already experienced heartbreak, love, the whole roller coaster that happens when you first get in a relationship, if she had experienced that, there wouldn't be a story, right? Because there would already be experience there for her to refer to and be like, this isn't what it is. Right? She wouldn't have moved him in, she definitely wouldn't have married him, she definitely wouldn't have introduced her family to him or created any kind of situation where people could give him money. All of these things, she would have done more research, she would have looked into him more. Like, it doesn't matter how much you like a person. And this is something that I think that people are not even really digging in, is like how much love can take you on a whirlwind and get you, going crazy over a person and never looking into them, never searching into them, never doing any research because you are so in love. That is dangerous. That is very, very dangerous. And so, I know some of you women, you want relationships, you just haven't been able to find the right person. But as long as, like, when you know that you found a person that you do want to be in a relationship, always protect yourself. Always look after yourself. Always have your own back. Do not go against yourself for other people, especially in relationships. Like, you're the only one who can protect you in the relationship, and they can protect themselves. So I just wanted to put that out there because I feel like that is a huge part of it. I really don't think that she would have been in the situation that she was in if she had been in a relationship before. Now, there's always, like, bigger things at hand too. Like, I feel as though there was the interracial part that was playing, and you guys know I'm married to a man, a white man. So, I am in an interracial marriage, but I feel as though in this situation, it really, I could see through it. Like, there are some women who are in interracial relationships and they pedalize the other person, they pedalize the white man or whatever race that they're in, and they seem to overlook so many things. And really, it's only because they're white that they do. And I saw that happening, and I totally get people's outrage about that because I totally saw it. But I think that also we have to put in, okay, he was white and she clearly is interested in the white aesthetic, and also she's never been in love before. So that together with, like, the person of her dreams, the Prince Charming that she thought she found, all of that happening at once is enough to make a person do what she did. So I do give her grace in that point because I understand love. And if, again, like I said, if you've been in relationships in the past, you already know what that may have felt like in the beginning. The first time you've ever been in a relationship, you did so many stupid things. Like, you can't tell me that you haven't, but you move on from it, right? You get the heartbreak, you get the lesson, you do all of those things. And so you end up actually, being better later for the next person, or the next person, or the next person, like however long it takes for you to meet your person. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there, about that, because I haven't seen anybody really speaking about that this happens to women a lot. And it's not just her. There are so many women that I know that haven't been in a relationship until they were like 28, 29, 30. And at that point, like, they moved in with the guy, they were thinking about marrying the guy, they were like having joint bank accounts with the guy, they were doing like all of the things, like they were married but they weren't married, but this was their first relationship. So they thought, this is going to be the one, this is going to be the person that I'm going to end up with forever, not catching on to the red flags because this is the first time they've ever experienced any of this kind of stuff. So that is very risky and very dangerous, and I just want you ladies to be aware of it because this is something that is happening all the time to many women. And it's not just like, oh, person is a scammer. It's not that you're going to just like have a scammer or anything like that. It's just that you have to be smart enough to know, like, some relationships don't last forever. And as you grow and learn about people and relationships, that's when you're able to like sharpen your knife and see people for who they are in the relationship for what it actually is, and not the fairy tale in your mind. Like I said, this it was already problematic. She's working with a lot of problematic things already. But I did want to talk about the thing that I didn't see a lot of people talking about, which was her age and her first time experiencing a relationship. Because I feel like that played a bigger part than most people even probably realize. Because I know like that those of us who's been in a relationship before, and especially when you did it when you were younger, you already know what that feels like. You already know what that is. So, shade her if you must, but I do get that part of her whole thing. And like I said, it's just way more dangerous. And so my advice for women who haven't been in a relationship before, and they are, late 20s, 30s, instead of pedalizing the relationship, instead of thinking about it like, oh my God, it finally happened, the love of my life, be a little skeptical, right? Be more in your realist brain, be more logical about it, right? Get out of your heart and get in your head. And I know that is hard. It's not an easy thing to get out of your heart and get in your head. But when you're at that age, you have so much more to lose. There is so much more to lose at that age. You are probably, established in your career. You have your own place. You've saved some money. You've decided where you wanted to live, or you're deciding, or you know how much kids, or if you don't want kids, you're pretty much like getting, especially women, we're pretty much getting to know like where we want our lives to go. And I speak about this because of the Saturn return, that this is happening to us regardless if we know it or not. By age 27, you're actually in your Saturn return, where you're reevaluating all of the things in your life. It's just not, relationships, is just like everything. So when you're at that point in your life, like you're really taking into account what you want and what's going on. And if you throw a wrench in it, like first time love, that will take you on a ride you do not want to go on. And a lot of the time it doesn't end up well, because we're accepting people, because at that age society is telling us, you need to be married, you need to have kids, you need to. And if you've never been in a relationship, you're just like, oh my God, I got to get a relationship so I can go do these things. And then you get in a relationship and then you go do these things and you're like, oh, okay, I'm doing it now. I'm doing it now. And then your family's happy. They're like, okay, finally she found somebody, and they co-sign the person, and they're, thinking that this is the perfect person for you. All of this stuff is happening. All of this stuff is happening. And it's completely like not real. And I want you guys to just kind of understand that, like that kind of thing that happens to women, especially at that age when you're feeling those pressures, you're going to end up risking more than you receive. And I don't want that for anybody. I want you guys to, choose people with your brain and your heart, right? I want you to really be in this to get what you truly want out of a relationship, not compromising your values, not compromising who you are. Because again, if you've never been in love, you will compromise your values, you will compromise who you are, just like she did. She compromised it, basically every single thing, with this guy that wasn't part of her values. He was a gambler, he was, scamming, he was asking people for money, he lied about what he was doing, he lied about how much money he had, he lied about, liking her, right? He literally lied about everything. And I know that, some people have been in love a million times and they still get scammed. But I really feel like you're so much easier to get scammed if you've never been in a relationship. And that's why I also tell women who've never been in a relationship, never tell the guy that, never tell a guy that you've never been in a relationship, even if it's the truth, because in saying that, he's is already like, oh, okay, then I could play this however way I want to play this. And we have to be honest, men do that. Like if a person, so it's just kind of like, oh, you go into a dealership and you tell the salesperson, I know nothing about cars, nothing at all. Um, I just want a car. I just give me whatever, they're going to end up setting you up with a bad deal. They're not going to have your best interest at heart. They're going to have their best interest. How can I make the best sale? How can I make the most money off of this person? How can this benefit me? And I want you to think about it in that way when you guys are dating these guys and you're telling them that you've never been in a relationship. Like you have to protect yourself and be like, don't say that, right? Even if you haven't, you could not say anything. You can lie about it and say you have, but don't let them know that you haven't been in a relationship, um because you never know a person's intentions with you. And in that case, especially a person who's preying on women, they already know that. That's like men who only date women who are young. The reason why they date women who are like 18, 19, 20, and they don't go past 22 is because of the fact that that's probably going to be that person's first relationship, right? So they're going to be more naive, they're going to be more gullible, they're going to be more pliable, easier to lie to, easier to get away with things with. And I know that's not every single relationship with a person who's that young, but that's most of them if we're being honest. And so if you know that that is a ploy that could possibly be happening, you need to protect yourself. So I would not give up that information to a guy at all. If I've never been in a relationship by a certain age, I wouldn't say that. And that goes along with so many other things that a person can start to prey on you, especially if you have things to lose. And in this case, obviously she had things to lose. She had a career, friends, family, a home, all of these things that he was able to, infiltrate and really get a hold of and take and really destroy a lot of what she had already going on. And actually when he left her and didn't even care. He took the mask off and was like, I really don't care for you. And when she cried and pleaded, come back, come back, come back. And he was like, no. It was so easy for him to be like, no, I'm not coming back, because he never liked her in the beginning. It was all a ploy to get what he wanted. And when people turn cold like that, that's when you learn, right? Like that's what happens in your first relationship. When things you think are happening and they blow up in your face and you experience that, then you could never look at relationships the same again. You're gonna have to see people more deeply, and you're going to have to get out of the fantasy. So I hope that made sense. I know this is a topic that so many people are talking about, and I only just like randomly started watching it because my niece started talking to me about it, and I couldn't sleep one night, and I was like, okay, let me just watch this thing. And I was shocked, but also not shocked, because I was like, this happens all of the time. And when I was looking at the reactions and seeing how people were taking that, I was like, okay, I agree with so much. Like I said, I agree with the white man part. This would have never happened if it was a black man. I agree with these things because clearly black men are not her type. She, I saw photos of this guy and I was like, is this who we're talking about? But again, this is just my own interpretation of it. Like I could be totally missing the mark, but I was like, this is not even a guy who can get my number. Like, but set aside, he lied to her and this was her type, and this guy, she was really attracted to him, and he was able to pull the wool over her eyes apparently. And I think we have to give her grace for that, especially this being her first ever relationship. And you can't really fault a person for not knowing what they don't know. I know ignorance of the law is not, I know, okay, whatever. But like, if you're ignorant, I do think that you do get a little bit of a pass. So that's my thought on that. If you guys want to have a one-on-one gotta check in with me, my information is in the description. Yeah, and some of you wrote, Hazel, great catching you live. Great seeing you. Thank you so much for being here. And then hi to everybody who said hi. And yeah, I'm gonna head out. This is not my normal setup. I'm actually just in the office right now. It's literally filled with boxes and kind of a mess, but I just wanted to make a video about this because I probably wouldn't have done it if I didn't do it right now because I'm already in the office set and I was like, I could do this right now. So that's why we are here. I do want to come on again probably tomorrow. I have more topics. I have so many things that I want to talk to you guys about. So many updates, so many. I mean, some of you guys already know, like, if you're my client, you know a lot what's going on with me right now. But yeah, I'm super excited to like be consistent on here again. But you guys can always reach out to me for one-on-one goddess check-in. You can just get my information link and everything down below in the comments. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.